Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear participants. Welcome to this session of Islam Study Circle. As per our format, we'll be starting with the Quranic verse, then we'll be studying a Hadith, then going off to a passage from the Bible. Finally, we'll have a discussion, and then the forum will be open for a Q&A session. So, the Quranic verse that is under discussion today is verse 48 from Surah number 4. Says, Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna zalika liman yasha wa man yushrik billahi faqad iftara isman azima. God will not forgive those who intentionally ascribe partners to Him, but lesser than this sin, He can forgive any sin for anyone He intends according to His law. And in fact, he who ascribes partners to God is guilty of a dreadful sin. So, a very famous Quranic verse and something that all of us have been known and taught since our very childhood, that God is going to forgive, or He has made it incumbent upon Himself that He may forgive all other sins except polytheism. Polytheism, if it is done deliberately, if it is indulged in spite of the fact that a person comes to know that this is something which is a grave sin. And the reason for this gravity and the reason for this fury of the Almighty that He'll not forgive such a person, of course, is very obvious, that it's like ascribing a falsehood, ascribing something wrong to God. Had there been a deity besides God, it was only God who could have informed us of this. And in the absence of any such information from Him, we just cannot have the true information whether He has a partner or not. So, since He has not informed us that He has a partner, when people ascribe partners to Him, then God says that this is like iftara Allah, which means that you are imputing falsehood to God, which is something which is unforgivable. And so polytheism, as you would all know, is something that has been a very dominant current in the world for centuries, and it was only probably in the times of the later prophets of God, especially Prophet Jesus, and then of course from Jesus to Prophet Muhammad, that this transformation took place, in which monotheism once again reigned supreme. So this world started off with monotheism, of course, because of the fact that a person or people who are born on their nature, they know that God is one, their own intuition, the world around them, it vouches for the fact that God is one. But slowly we know that the world gave way, or monotheism actually gave way to polytheism. And there are a few reasons for this. For example, one of the reasons is that it was thought that God is aloof and He is detached, and once He has created this universe, He has handed it over to His deputies, and He has no more role in this universe. And this detachment, this aloofness, it was exaggerated so much that people thought that, well, the only way to access God is now that if they have other intermediaries who can access Him and thereby connect these people to God directly. Similarly, there were certain attributes of God about which they thought that because of the fact that this aloofness is something that seems to be right there, and the Qur'an has said that He is Ahad, which means that there is none like Him, He is peerless, He is singular. So once again people thought that, well, in this case, if He is peerless, if He is singular, He is unreachable, then we have to find some intermediaries to reach Him. And this actually resulted in a lot of intermediaries being established. So we know that the people of the book, the Jews, were guilty of ascribing Uzair to be the son of God, and they were also guilty of regarding Jesus to be the son of God, in particular the Christians. And we know the idolaters, they regarded the angels to be the daughters of God, and as such they were also intermediaries and intercessors. And regarding all these three denominations, the Quran took a very strong stance. It of course tried to dispel any such notions, and it came up with various arguments and various reasonings, and telling people that when they are indulging in polytheism, they are doing something which is against their own nature. It is something which is so obvious that if they only open their eyes and they think and are able to match this world with their own inner world, then it is an inescapable reality, something which is absolutely indubitable that God is one. And so this was a debate and a discussion that went on for long in the times of Prophet, and we know that very earlier on in the Meccan period, The greatest statement made by the Quran in favor of monotheism can be found in Surah Ikhlas, which says, "Qul huwallahu ahad Allahu samad lam yalid wa lam yulad wa lam yakul lahu kufuwan ahad." This actually is a statement or a declaration from God Himself that closes or plugs any fissures that might lead to polytheism. And that is why precisely that this surah has begun by saying that if God is peerless, then people should not think that He is not accessible. Allahu Samad, He is also accessible. He is with everyone. He is like a rock. He is like a place of refuge for everyone. You can reach out to Him. You can directly access Him. You do not need any intermediaries or any intercessors. He is available and accessible to all and sundry. So the Quran made it amply clear that as far as idolatry is concerned, polytheism is concerned, it is an unnatural thing, something that has been conceptually erroneously enunciated. And also we know, dear viewers, that the nature of polytheism that was practiced in the times of the Prophet also had a very distinct variation. So the people of the book, of course, they believed in one God, but the way they believed in one God was, of course, in a deviant way. For example, as I just said, that the Christians or the Nazarenes regarded Jesus to be the Son of God, and He was included in Godhead Himself, or the Holy Trinity, which they later on, after Jesus had passed away, the way they enunciated the Holy Trinity, it actually ended up being a very deviant concept. And so the Quran actually, on the face of their own admission, did not regard them to be polytheists, because they themselves said that they are monotheists. So people of the book, in spite of being monotheists, they practiced some blatant form of polytheism. On the other hand, the idolaters, the mushrikun, the Bani Ismail, they actually claimed and professed that yes, we believe in more than one God. So it was not that it was any deviant monotheism, it was a self-admitted polytheism, and that is why they were given the title of Al-Mushrikun, the idolaters, the polytheists, so that it becomes absolutely clear that there is no matter of any confusion. And this is precisely why in the whole of the Quran, there is not a single place in the Quran, in the corpus of the Quran, that you will find the word mushrik or polytheist being used for the Jews or the Christians. Because, as I just said, that although they were guilty of various forms of polytheism, but they never admitted to them. They never professed that they are polytheists. And the Quran took their word for it, although it said that whatever you're doing or practicing is not monotheism, it is close to a polytheistic practice. But because of this debate that had gone on for very long, they were never dubbed as polytheists. And even after the Prophet had conveyed the truth to them, we know very well that the punishment that was given for denying the truth was different to the idolaters, and it was different to the people of the book. It was precisely because of this difference that both the people of the book and both the idolaters, they had a world of difference as far as their polytheistic tendencies were concerned. The people of the book being deviant monotheists, and the Banu Ismail or the Ishmaelites being pure polytheists. And the Quran says, وَمَنْ يُشْرِكْ بِاللَّهِ فَقَدْ افْتَرَى إِثْمًا عَظِيمًا. So he who has ascribed partners to God is guilty of a dreadful sin, which of course is something that we have just discussed. But we know that once the Prophet, peace be upon him, he left this world, there was this, what we can say, a revolution in favor of monotheism that he had brought about. And prior to him, the world was engulfed in polytheism. And this new age of faith, as we can rightly call it, was the age of monotheism. It still is the dominant voice of today. Yes, we still have dissenting voices of polytheism, but the dominant voice even today, we can see after almost 15 centuries, hence when the Prophet had passed away, that the world still primarily holds on to monotheism. The three great world religions, the three great monotheistic religions, of course, they vouch for monotheism: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. They stand for one God, although, as I just said, that there is some deviance found in the practices of all these three faiths. So now we come to the second segment of our study circle. This is a hadith, and in fact, this hadith is from Al-Jami' al-Sahih of Imam Bukhari, and it is the dua or the supplication of Istikharah which is beautifully laid out here and can be understood. So it says, Allahumma inni astakhiruka bi ilmika wa astaqdiruka bi qudratika wa as'aluka min fadlika al-azim فإنك تقدر ولا أقدر وتعلم ما ولا أعلم وأنت علام الغيوب اللهم إن كنت تعلم أن هذا الأمر خير لي في ديني ومعاشي وعاقبة أمري فاقدره لي ويسره لي ثم بارك لي فيه. So let me first translate partially. It says, O God, I seek goodness through your knowledge, and through your might I seek strength, and I request from you your great blessings, because you have the might and I do not have the might. You know everything and I do not know, and you have knowledge of the unseen. God, if in your knowledge this action which I intend to do is better with regard to my religion, my life and my fate, then destine it for me and make it easy for me, and then add blessings to it for me. And then we have the other part which says, وَإِن كُنْتَ تَعْلَمْ أَنَّ هَذَا الْأَمْرَ شَرٌّ لِي فِي دِينِي وَمَعَاشِي وَعَاقِبَةِ أَمْرِي فَاصْرِفْهُ عَنِّي وَاصْرِفْنِي عَنْهُ وَاقْدُرْ لِي الْخَيْرَ حَيْثُ كَانَ ثُمَّ رَضِّنِي بِهِ. Now this means that if in your knowledge, God, if this action is evil for me, for my religion and for my fate, then turn it away from me, and God, whatever is better for me, ordain that for me wherever it is, and then make me satisfied with it. So this, the famous dua or supplication of Istikharah that is mentioned in our Hadith literature, there are a couple of points that we have to understand. That, I mean, it is like a dua, as you can see from the very words, it's just a dua, it's a supplication that you make to God, in which if you are at a crossroad, if you are stuck at some instance and you would like the guidance of God, that which way to go, then this dua, this supplication is something that invokes God and asks Him, as you can see in these beautiful words, that if whatever you intend to do or whatever has come to your mind is good for you, for your fate, for your religion, then God, please make me do it, ordain it for me, and if it is not good for me, then please turn it away from me and make me satisfied on it. So it's like standing on the crossroads and maybe coming to a decision, but not fully satisfied and not fully comfortable with the decision you have made, and you are seeking God's blessing. So the misconceptions that have arisen from the dua of Istikharah, as you might already have been knowing, is that people think that Istikharah is like a hotline to God, and as soon as you pray or you supplicate before God, then this is going to give you a clear indication from God in a dream or maybe in some other way, and then whatever comes in your dream, you should follow it, because people think that that is an indication from God. Now, as I said, this is something that we cannot in any way be fully sure of, whether the indication we get in a dream or otherwise is from God, because you know that God had communicated His intention to His prophets, His messengers, and with the departure of His prophets and messengers, and with the termination of the institution of Wahi or divine revelation, He does not communicate with human beings. So to think that you have a dream from God is something that we can never be sure of. Similarly, we have to understand that dreams themselves, they have a lot of reasons behind them. They are a parapsychological phenomenon. A lot of things that are in our own subconscious is what is displayed in our dreams. So at best what we can say is that this dua or this supplication is something that is going to invoke God's guidance, that please guide us. But remember, as is the case with all duas, all supplications, three outcomes are usually possible. One, nothing happens. Two, the supplication is accepted and you get to know the right way to go on. And three, it is deferred, and maybe later on either it is fulfilled or it is just added in your treasure of deeds, because dua itself is a form of worship. So just as these three outcomes can be the case with any dua, so is the case with the dua of Istikharah. One should never think that it's like a certain connection with God, and if you start praying this over and over again, you will get an answer from God. This is not necessarily true, because as I said, supplications can be answered and they can be left unanswered. Also, another important thing is that the person who himself or herself is in a spot of bother is the one who should do istikharah. And this concept of asking other people to do istikharah for other people is a totally alien concept, and it has become very famous these days. Otherwise, as you can see from the words of this dua, of this beautiful supplication, is that the person who is actually undertaking a certain task and is not about very sure what to do is the one who is asking for God's guidance, His knowledge, His mercy, and asking Him to ordain matters which are conducive to that person and to turn matters away from that person which are not conducive, and at the same time make him satisfied. So please do bear this in mind, that it's istikharah. And in fact, the literal meaning of the word istikharah is to ask for good from God. So istikharah is actually, it's made from a verb which tells us that we are going to seek God's good or His good advice. And that, of course, is, again, as I said, something which is totally on our part. And a third thing that I would like to point out here is also that istikharah or this dua has to be done once we have done our part. So it should not be the case that the responsibilities that were imposed on a person who was undertaking a certain task, they were left unfulfilled, and then you suddenly started praying to God. So because God is Himself said that His own interference or His own help will come once people do their job, once they do what is required of them. In the absence of that, you just cannot expect God to do His part, because His part starts where our part ends. And this also is something that we have to very clearly understand. We now come to the third segment of our study circle, and this is excerpt. In fact, this is one verse from chapter number 27, the book of Proverbs. This, of course, was revealed to the Prophet Solomon, who was the son of the famous Prophet David. And it's about true friendship. So it says, perfume and incense bring joy to the heart, and the pleasantness of a friend springs from their heartfelt advice. So this heartfelt advice is something that is really the crux of true friendship. So there can be no better a critic than your own friend. A critic who will tell you what's right and what's wrong, who does not want to outdo you in any way. He is not someone, or she's not someone who's going to try to score points against you. The advice that he or she should give should be heartfelt. It should not be based on flattery. It should not be based on any expediency. It should be based on sincerity. Whatever a person sincerely thinks about one's friend is something that he or she must communicate in a very earnest way, in a very polite way, in a way that shows the concern he or she might have for the person who is being given that advice. So friendship, as we all know, is something, and as this beautiful verse also tells us, that just as perfume and incense, they bring joy to the heart, they are beautiful to smell, you feel a certain satisfaction with the aura. In a similar way, people who are true friends, who are really good confidants, who are concerned of their own friends, are ones who bring joy to the heart, and that is because their advice is heartfelt. It is something that as well-wishers they give. And we know that Prophet, peace be upon him, had also once, when he was asked that what is deen, mad deen, and he said ad-deen an-nasiha, that religion is nothing but sincerity towards your fellow beings, as that hadith goes on to say. So your sincerity, your compassion, your kindness, and everything else stands at the top. It should be unimpeachable. Nothing should challenge it. Your friends should feel that my friend is giving me a friendly advice. It might be something that I might feel that's against me, but then it is based on sincerity, on some true opinion that he or she might be having, and that is something that we have to count for. So to be a critic of your friend in a way that brings that friend to understand and to reassess and to reevaluate what he might be doing wrong is the best role which a friend can play. So remember, as friends, we have to be always alert that when our own friend or our own acquaintances, they are doing something that might lead them to loss or destruction in any way, we should take the initiative and try to earnestly present what we think that the person should do. Of course, that is I mean, that is, we have to understand something that we should not force upon our friends. So at times we become very forceful in our suggestions, our advice. That should not be the case. We should just politely present what we have in mind and then leave the person to understand and let that person take a step. It could be that he or she does not accept the advice. That is perfectly okay. But what we should do is not withhold ourselves thinking that, well, what do I have to do with this whole thing? No, I am part of the human fraternity. I am part of the family of my friends around me. And friends also, they form a family. And that is what is beautifully laid out in this passage or this verse of book of Proverbs, chapter number 27. So we now come to discussion, and this discussion is a moderated discussion in which we'll be giving our opinions, and that is, how would I spend $1 million US gifted to me? So if suddenly you end up, you wake one morning and you find that your bank has increased, your bank balance has increased by $1 million, and they have come to you out of nowhere. So what would you do with these $1 million? That's $1 million question as well. Over to you, Mariam.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. I'll start off the discussion by saying, first I'll make sure that they were gifted to me and it wasn't a mistake from somewhere. Once I've made
Correct.
sure, then I know that there's a certain percentage that if you get so much money as a gift that you have to give away. So that percentage, which please remind me what that percentage is.
Well, it all depends. That gift, I mean, if that gift is given to you without your own effort or without your own investment, then it is 20%.
20%. Okay. So that 20%, I would like to use it in a way that it's given away, but in a sense that the communities that it's given to, they can build something that they find useful long term. So like building schools or mosques or wells, that kind of stuff. So that'll be that charity aspect of it. The other 80%, I would like to save some of it for future, just in case. And then the other, I would like to invest it in real estate so I can make more money. That's,
Okay, that's fair enough.
that's what I would do.
Okay.
And I'm waiting for participants to raise their hand because what would you all like to do with that much money? First up is Shabnam. Please go ahead.
जी थैंक यू मरियम सर को और रेज्ड हैंड नहीं था तो आई थॉट कि चले मैं पुट दे देती हूँ सर गिवन ए चॉइस आई वुड डेफिनेटली नॉट एक्सेप्ट द मनी if given a choice, and I'll try to find that friend who is so kind to me and try to return it. And given a choice, I'll suggest to that person that please spend it on.
I mean, I consider this fact that you don't have a choice, and it's like a gift that you have got, and it's in your pocket now, and it belongs to you. So what would you do with that?
Sir, I think I'll be bewildered and I won't like it. But इससे ज़्यादा नहीं मैं कुछ सोच. I won't like it, sir. ना मुझे ज़रूरत है ना ख्वाहिश. I'm okay with what I have. Alhamdulillah. I'll be upset, honestly.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I'd like to add to my answer. I want to build my dream pink bedroom. That I will spend some of the money on. Akram Bhatti Saab, please go ahead.
Assalamualaikum, sir.
Walaikum assalam.
Sir, if it happened to me, I think at this point, the most deserving of our money is Gaza people. So I will donate maximum money to them and say 50% of them and 50% for the future of the children of Pakistan, helping them build a house, build a school, like madrasa next to masjid. So they can be we have a better future for our nation there. That's what I would do.
Very good. Okay.
We need more answers, a bit more selfish answers, perhaps. Everyone's being so nice and selfless. Dr. Saleem, since we don't have raised hands, what would you like to do? Or would you like to hold on to your answer until the end?
Well, if there's no one, I can just express my opinion that I'll try to use the money to build a big educational institution in which we are able to produce scholars of religion and teachers and preachers who are able to propagate the message of religion to the modern mind, to the young mind, in a very academic and a very enlightened way. And I think that this is one area in which we are hugely falling short. And although we have institutions, but most of them are not able to function properly because of lack of resources. So that would be my spending.
Nice. Thank you for sharing that. Noshad Shafkat, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. Sir, first of all, I would build a house for myself because unfortunately I don't have one now. So I'll be a little
Fair enough.
mean, as Bunny said. And then I would endorse exactly what you're saying. I would build an educational institution because that, I think, is the dire need of the Muslims as a whole. We see only yesterday in the afternoon, sir, I was hearing a tilawat from a mosque, some of the madrasa students. And I was thinking that, the only thing that we have given our, most of us have given our generation is to recite the Quran and to become a hafiz without understanding a word of it. I would set
Correct.
up an educational institution where latest developments, scientific developments, where students go and they pursue what they were actually born for. Because I think an Einstein was born to be an Einstein. He was only given the opportunity by his society to become an Einstein. Here, as they say, if Newton had been born in our part of the world, he would probably have gone to school, and the master would have, instead of listening to what he had to say, given him a few beatings, saying, "Why did you bunk school?" and was sleeping under that apple tree. Anyway, that would be my spending of the $1 million, preferably, that I would get. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. We need more hands. Come on. Y'all are getting $1 million. Come on. There must be stuff you want to do. Sarwat, please go ahead.
मेरा ये ख्याल है कि पाकिस्तान में मैं बहुत अरसे से ये बात सोच रही थी कि जो कॉलेजेस हैं उसमें एफए और बीए की तालीम तो बहुत हर कोई करवाता है। मुझे लगता है कि हमें जरूरत है जहाँ पे ना जैसे ये प्लम्बर्स, इलेक्ट्रिशियन, कारपेंटर्स, ऐसे लोगों के लिए एक कॉलेज होना चाहिए जहाँ पे इनकी वो टेक्निकल उनकी तालीम दी जाए। और ये मैं बहुत अरसे से सोच रही थी जी, टेक्निकल सिर्फ मतलब टेक्निकल तालीम हो, क्योंकि हमें उन लोगों की ज्यादा जरूरत है बजाय इसके सिर्फ बीए एमए एफए बीए एमए करके बच्चे।
Right. Okay, that is also a good suggestion, that technical education, although we do have schools of technical education, but they are far and few between. Yes, we do. We need a lot of. Yeah,
देखो हमें कितने ज्यादा जरूरत है, गाड़ी मैकेनिक है, एसी ये ठीक करने वाले हैं, ये सब ऐसे लोगों की बहुत सख्त जरूरत है।
Correct.
और उसी में उनको पैसे भी ज्यादा वो कमा सकते हैं।
Correct.
और अपने पैरों पे खड़े हो सकते।
Thank you very much for sharing. Nadia, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Salam. So I think I will, if I have that much money, one, I would like to contribute to Al-Mawrid because it has made a huge difference in my life of understanding Islam. As he said that we are born in Muslim families, so automatically have the privilege of being a Muslim. But having the recent different aspects of religion and understanding Quran and Tafsir, I think it has made a huge difference in my life. Listening to Al-Mawrid, especially Dr. Ghamidi Saab and Dr. Shehzad after that. I wish I have more money now in which I can contribute towards that platform. Unfortunately, maybe one day I will. That's my goal. The other thing I would like to do is, because especially the lectures in English for the children who are getting raised in US and other Western countries,
I think it's a very good platform for them to understand what their faith actually means and how to best possibility be part of the culture without having those confusions that this is haram and this is halal, and so I think that has given a huge thing to me and my family. Second thing, I love my home country, Pakistan, and as I said, I've been seeing a lot of older population in older homes, especially for women, children, single women. I would love to build a house for them, a safe space where they can live their life, and learn some good stuff, really beneficial for them. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is well taken. Thank you for that.
Thank you
No
for sharing.
problem. You're welcome.
Naveed Arfan, you're up next. Please go ahead.
अस्सलाम वालेकुम warahmatullahi wabarakatuh।
Walaikum.
सर वैसे मैं मतलब बहुत ज्यादा कनेक्ट नहीं कर पाया लाइक यूएस डॉलर इंडियन करेंसी में कितना होगा, लेकिन एक टेंटेटिव जो मैं समझा तो मैं एक 25% मनी इसके लिए मैं रिजर्व रखना चाहूंगा कि मैं दुनिया में ट्रेवल करूं, और मतलब मकसद ऑफ ट्रेवल ये रहेगा कि मैं मुस्लिम कंट्रीज खासतौर पे देखूं वहाँ क्या इस्लाम किस तरीके से लोग फॉलो करते हैं, वहाँ के स्कॉलर्स से मिला जाए, ये एक और है। और 75% जो मनी है मैं यूज करना चाहूंगा, एक ऐसा इदारा बनाया जाए जो दावत का काम करे और कुरान फहमी पे काम करे। मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि ये दोनों काम की बहुत ज्यादा जरूरत है कि मुसलमान जो हैं वो मतलब मजहब को सही तरीके से नहीं समझते क्योंकि कुरान से दूर है, तो उनके अंदर कुरान फहमी के लिए जितना काम किया जाए कम है। और उसी तरह इतने सारे लोग दुनिया में हैं जो इस्लाम को सही तरीके से नहीं जानते, तो उन तक भी इस्लाम का तारुफ पहुंचाया जाए। तो ये मेरा सोच बनती है, और मेरा इरादा भी है कि आफ्टर रिटायरमेंट में इसी को अपना डिवोट करूं 10-1 साल के बाद में।
Okay. Our prayers for you.
Inshallah. Thanks for sharing. Janat Khan, please go ahead.
Yes, assalamualaikum everyone. Thank you. I think $1 million is something that we can do a lot of good with, but the common denominator that I feel over here is that everybody's pursuing towards the fact of the lack of education that we have. Rather it be the fact that we don't understand our religion ourselves or other factors. But I feel like, I've lived in both parts of the world, and one thing that I feel is that we do have a lot of cultural barriers and also religious barriers. A lot of our religion that, at least I grew up in Pakistan, was basically just from the environment, learning from just going out, all cultural norms, which honestly, after moving here, I feel like it has nothing to do with religion. And, another thing that I do feel is the lack of good leadership throughout the world that can represent us. I have kids now, and I feel like when I do take them back home, it's very hard for them to kind of communicate and understand their perspective from a religious point too. Forget the cultural barrier, because it's so diverse over there that they get confused. I have a lot of doctors that I work with, a lot of people that do want to go back, people like me who do have connections or do have some, people back home. We do go, we do what we want to, but surprisingly, there is such a big number of people that want to contribute, but they just have no idea how to go back and contribute. Not only that, but how to trust people to contribute. And I think a lack of leadership in terms of a good Muslim leader that can not only represent us nationally but internationally is something that we lack tremendously. Somebody who
So you have yet to tell us that how you would utilize the money.
Yeah, so I think we open, the same thing, an institution where we kind of cross bridge or have people from back home or other Muslim countries with Western countries, have these scholars get engaged, and there's a cross, not only a talk, but travel and work that can be done in all these countries, because the number of people is dramatic, at least from my experience, who do want to contribute, but have no idea how to do it.
Okay. So basically, you are also voting for an institution that is able to produce people who are able to express the true understanding of religion, and at the same time they become ambassadors of their faith. Okay.
Yeah, I think leadership training. We lack in leadership training. We don't have leadership anywhere. I mean, at least that's my opinion. I don't think we have. We have great scholars, but everybody's limited to kind of their own little shell. But
Okay.
you know, having that mindset and having that openness to just cross-talk and understand somebody else's perspective, not only amongst Muslims but non-Muslims too, I think that opens the door to a lot of good things. You know, that would be my opinion, to have a leadership program and cross-talk
Okay.
between us back
Okay.
home and here.
Thank you
Okay.
for
Fair
sharing.
enough.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing. We have another answer in the chat that says, I would spend money to prepare politicians who are honest. Right now, we need people who can influence Westerners with a positive message of Islam and negate fake propaganda. I would spend money to prepare our young to do the above work.
Okay. So we have a politician training institute, we have a leadership training institute, and we have welfare institutions, and we have educational institutions. Okay, so that's pretty good. I mean, we are covering a lot of, I would say, many affairs that get covered, and I do hope that this dream comes true. And we are out of nowhere given this amount. So you never know; this could have always happened. But more than that, yes, please go ahead.
Another one in the chat that says, I will go and meet my parents. I haven't met them for 8 years, and I'll invest in some small business and support scholars like you and Al-Mawrid.
Okay. Okay, so do we have more hands?
We don't have more hands, but if now's your time to raise your hand and contribute if you'd like to share how you'd like to use your $1 million. Okay. I think most people have said what they wanted to.
Okay. So the thing that I would like to say here at the end is that don't wait for those $1 million. The thing is that whatever you have is actually still a treasure. So yes, fortuitous happenings, they do come about, and when they happen, you have a lot to plan and you have a lot to do, but you can get hold of the money that you already have and use it to the best possible benefit, and especially the ones that you have already pointed out. And that is the whole point of having this discussion, that you see these accidental happenings, they are like windfall gains and they do have their role. But should we keep on waiting for these happenings? Obviously, I think you would agree that no, we just cannot wait for things to go to a certain level and then we start realizing our dreams. So remember, dreams start at a small level. Yes, we dream big, but we start at a small level. So however big your dream is, there is always the first step. So I would urge you, I would urge myself as well, that whatever ambition you have, whatever way you have before yourself to contribute, start with whatever you have. And it could be a small drop in the ocean. And remember, that small drop is one day going to become an ocean when people see that they are a few individuals who are doing a certain amount of work. Then remember, as we have discussed at some point earlier on, that the power of one is amazing. One person, one first step, one initiative, it can bring about a huge change, because you see people, they feel shy in taking the first step, especially if they have little to give. So that shyness blocks a lot of people from taking the first step. But if you are bold enough to take the first step, just that small initiative, you might make other people who are at the moment meaningless, you might make them meaningful, because they will be given that courage, they will do away with their shyness, and you'll see that that small candle that you lit up in darkness became instrumental in a lot of small candles lighting up from all around. And then if you look at the collective effect of those small candles, you can see how they can end up becoming a lighthouse. So that was the purpose of this exercise, and I do hope that you'll reflect on this and do what best you can. Okay, so now we can move on and for the main Q&A.
All right, so any questions, you can raise your hand or type them in the chat, and if you'd like to remain anonymous, you can send them to me directly. Our first question comes from Shabnam. Shabnam, please go ahead.
जी थैंक यू सर एक्चुअली मेरी डिस्कशन हो रही थी अपने नेफ्यू से तो सर आई रियलाइज्ड कि कुरान पाक में जिना और इंटॉक्सिकेशन की कोई ये नहीं मेंशन कि दिल एंड अप इन हेल उनकी पनिशमेंट जिना की बताई गई है सूरह नूर में एंड आई वेंट थ्रू दोज आयत अगेन ऑन द ऐप तो सर क्या ये बात ठीक है
There is no punishment. There is no punishment in this world that has been specified by the Sharia, or any punishment, specific punishment. Of course, it's a sin, but every sin is going to accumulate in your account. But as far as this world is concerned, no such punishment has been legislated by the Sharia. But this does not mean that Parliament cannot legislate. So it has left the punishment of drinking and consumption of liquor to the Parliament itself, and so a Parliament can legislate keeping in view the circumstances of every society, which are different from in different societies, and of course this can change as well. So we know that earlier on in the times of Caliph Abu Bakr, they were punished by 40 lashes, and later on it became 80, and so I mean you can choose one of those punishments, you can have an entirely new punishment. So and that too, if you think that this is worthy of a punishment itself. So you see, a lot of things in the society can be done through education. A lot of things can be done through instruction and grooming, and that is why, in many cases, the whole act of punishment has been left to the legislation of a state authority. So if that is required, a state can do it. If not required, the state can obviously use various measures like schools, educational institutions, the Friday pulpit, all other your social media, television, everything in which people can be instructed. And if people are generally following this, then it's not always essential to legislate for a punishment.
राइट सर लेकिन सर जिना की सजा तो है लेकिन उनके लिए दोज़ख हेल का जिक्र नहीं है.
So you see, as far as fornication is concerned, polytheism is concerned, and assassination or killing someone is concerned. So these are the three major sins. And about these three major sins in Surah Furqan, you'll see that there is eternal hell promised for them.
Oh, okay, right. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Omar, please go ahead.
थैंक यू जी सर ये मैंने पूछना था जो असहाबे फील का वाक़या है सर इत्माम हुज्जत वैसे मैं बहुत उसको इम्पोर्टेंट समझता हूँ कुरान मजीद में जो कानून है और वो अगर हम एक दूसरे को इसमें मुसलमान समझ लें एक दूसरे से बेहतर हम डिस्कस कर सकते हैं और कुरान का मैसेज भी गैर मुस्लिम तक सही से पहुंचा सकते हैं मेरी ओपिनियन है लेकिन सर ये साबित फील का जो वाक़या है उसमें समझ नहीं आ रही क्योंकि ये तो इत्माम हुज्जत नहीं है लेकिन उनको सज़ा बहुत सख्त दी गई है अल्लाह की तरफ से तो इसकी काइंडली समझा दीजिए.
I mean, this does not relate to Itmam Hujjat at all. This is not the Almighty or the people who are defendants of the house of God doing anything. They were attacked, and whatever they did was in self-defense. And that self-defense does not require any Itmamul Hujjah. Even today, if you are attacked and you defend yourself or in any way to save your own life, that is absolutely warranted. So remember, self-defense is an entirely different thing. The issue of Itmamul Hujjah or for other reasons of an offense, I mean, as I said, arises only when you are attacking someone, when you are trying to lift your arms against someone. Then for that, either you have a legitimate excuse, like for example persecution, to curb persecution, or as in the case of God's messengers, that the truth has been conveyed to them. But self-defense, as was the case with the Baitullah, it does not require any such thing.
सर तो आज के ज़माने में भी हमारे साथ इस तरह अल्लाह की मदद आएगी अगर हम बेकसूर.
We don't know. I mean, God helps people in His own ways if they help themselves first. So remember, the army of Abraham when attacked the Meccans, Abdul Muttalib and his tribesmen, they did what best they could. They hid in the mountains and they thought that they could not have defended Baitullah because it was like a cusp and they would have just been totally wiped out. So what they did was that they hid in the mountains and they started pelting the army with stones, and then God actually helped this whole outburst become a whole storm, because there was a huge wind, and when they would throw those stones and rocks, they would strike the army at a very alarming pace, and the elephants and the people who were actually riding those elephants, and other infantry as well, so they got killed. So this is something which is going to happen once you have done your best. So how God is going to help you, it could be different in different cases. In this case, He did, and of course we know that in the case of the army of Abraha, the peculiar circumstances made it possible, because we don't have mountains everywhere where you are able to defend yourself. So that was a very special situation in which the nearby mountains were there, and Abdul Muttalib and his compatriots, they hid in those mountains, and then they pelted stones. Today, of course, different ways can be adopted. So the thing is that we have to understand that self-defense does not relate to anything that relates to Itmamul Hujjah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Akram Bhatti, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mariam. Sir, मेरा सवाल है, गुनाह कबीरा, गुनाह जो 4 गुनाह कबीरा हैं, इंक्लूडिंग शिर्क, तो जैसे अभी हमने पढ़ा कि शिर्क को अल्लाह ताला माफ नहीं करेगा, बाकी सब कुछ माफ कर सकता है, और फिर ये भी कहते हैं कि अल्लाह ताला ने अपने ऊपर रहमत नाज़िल कर रखी, वो मुकद्दम कर रखी है। तो जरा इसको समझाएंगे कि दोनों में फर्क क्या है, कि हम बिलीव करें कि अल्लाह चाहे तो सब कुछ माफ कर सकता है, गुनाह कबीरा भी, गुनाह सगीरा भी, लेकिन फिर अल्लाह ताला कहता है कि जैसे हमें आप पढ़ाते हैं कि शिर्क के अलावा कोई भी गुनाह शिर्क के अलावा कोई भी गुनाह माफ कर सकता है, और लेकिन वो 4 गुनाह माफ नहीं करेंगे, गुनाह कबीरा माफ नहीं होंगे। तो इसमें किस तरह समझाएंगे आप हमें?
So you see, what has been stated in the Quran is that this is their punishment. That it does not mean that you cannot be forgiven for that punishment. So the other major sins, God can forgive them, He can forgive His part. But remember, for that to happen, because there are other people involved also. For example, when you have raped someone, or for example, when you have, let's say, murdered someone, in that case, the person who was murdered, he has to forgive the person as well. And in that case, if the person forgives the murderer, and the Almighty also thinks that this is some clemency on His part that should happen, then fine, He can do that. But remember, this would only be possible once the person who suffered also has, his consent or her consent is also taken. In the case of polytheism, it's God alone. So remember, there's no other party involved. In adultery, we have 2 people. In murder, again, we have 2 people. But in polytheism, it's God alone. So God says that when you are doing something, it's on me to forgive or not. And in this case, I'm not going to forgive anyone who has associated and deliberately associated partners with me, because this is one of the greatest and heinous crimes which a person can do, and that is to lie against God. So, we have to make this distinction that the rest of the 2 crimes, they involve other people as well, and for their forgiveness, we need the consent of other people. But in the case of polytheism, it's just God Himself, and God says that although it's myself who is just involved, I could have forgiven polytheism, but this is one thing that I'll not forgive.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amar, please go ahead.
जी थैंक यू सर। ये सूरह अल काफरून में जो वला अंतुम आबिदून मा आबुद है, आपने पहला जो है वो प्रेजेंट में किया है और दूसरा पास्ट में ट्रांसलेट, तो सर ये कौन सा नुआंस है, या ये कोई टिप दे दीजिए?
I think that just need to read the tafsir of Ustaz Amin Hassan Islahi. He has grammatically shown that how this is possible. So it's a little technical in nature, but just read through his tafsir and you'll be able to understand.
जी थैंक यू।
Thank you. Shabnam, please go ahead.
जी थैंक यू सर। ये अभी आपने जो पॉलीथिज्म का एक्सप्लेन किया सर, बस मुझे लगता है कि whenever we mention the punishment, तो हमेशा थोड़ा सा ये भी क्लियर कर देना चाहिए कि deliberate polytheism.
Correct.
Right? Thank you, sir.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you very much. Adil Qureshi, please go ahead.
सर ये बात हम सुन्नत और हदीस में जो फ़र्क का जिक्र करते हैं, तो ये कहते हैं कि नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने कभी भी ये नहीं कहा कि तुम ये बात हदीस के मामले में कि ये जो मैंने बोला है ये दूसरों तक पहुंचाओ, और इसका कभी एहतमाम नहीं किया। लेकिन जो खुतबा हिज्जतुल विदा है जिसमें नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम ने अपना लास्ट सरमन दिया था, उसके बारे में आई थिंक ओपनिंग सेंटेंस ही ये है कि जो लोग यहाँ पे नहीं हैं वो लाजमन ये या मेक श्योर करें कि ये बात जो है जो उन सबको भी पहुंचे जो लोग यहाँ पे नहीं आ सके। तो इज दिस नॉट एन एविडेंस कि नबी सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि
I mean, this is just a small part of the whole religion that he explained way before the khutbah that took place. That is just I would say an instance in which he was giving the khutbah of Hajj, and he wanted to convey this to people, all the people that had professed faith in him. And we know, of course, that all the people were not able to do Hajj with him. So he wanted to convey these pieces of advice to them. And any piece of advice that a prophet would like to convey should not be held equivalent to the fact that he had made it a responsibility of the ummah to explain each and everything that he had uttered. This is a very small and a specific case in which people who were not able to do Hajj with him and they wanted to listen what he had said. About them he said that hal ballaghta, hal ballaghtu, have I transferred it to you, have I conveyed it to you? And they said qad ballaghta, that yes you have. And then he said that fal yuballigh al-shahid al-ghaib, that people who are present here should convey what I have told them so that other people who were not able to attend this Hajj are able to be part of this as well. So that is a very specific thing and basically meant for people who are not able to do Hajj, because you see, when the Prophet did Hajj, every single soul wanted to be with him. This is a natural inclination or desire that was found amongst people, but in spite of that, we still know that at that time there is a different estimate given by scholars ranging from 60,000 to 1,20,000 people did Hajj, which is a huge number in those times. But in spite of that, there were people who could not go.
Right, sir.
Did you have a follow-up, Adil?
No, I can ask another question after the other question. Thank you.
Sure. You can raise your hand again. Salman Aziz, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Sir, regarding the hadith in which the Prophet ﷺ went to Medina, and the people of Medina were probably proficient in garnering the dates. So the Prophet said that probably something like that, you should not graft or graft something. After that, probably the crop was not as per the previous standard of production. So what had happened then, the Prophet said that you people are more maybe current or proficient in the worldly ways.
Correct.
We see that in one side, this is the saying the Prophet, but in the Quran, it says that there should not be anything even in our hearts about any decision of the Prophet or about maybe any saying of the Prophet. So these two things becomes difficult to understand that they appear to be contradictory.
So you see, these are two entirely different things. The one that you have referred to earlier was just an opinion given by the Prophet. I mean, it was just an offhand opinion, and he just said that, well, you graft or you cross-pollinate. What if you don't do it? And people thought that that the Prophet was expressing something from God, and they did not do it, and we know what happened as a result. But the verse which says that فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ حَتَّى يُحَكِّمُوكَ فِي مَا شَجَرَ بَيْنَهُمْ ثُمَّ لَا يَجِدُوا فِي أَنفُسِهِمْ حَرَجًا, that actually refers to a dispute that had actually made it to the Prophet, into the presence of the Prophet, and he was made the judge of that dispute, and then he decided, of course, in the favor of one party and regarded the other to be guilty. So about the guilty party, the Quran says that when the Prophet decides something, a matter which has been brought before him so that he should decide, then if he goes against or decides against some party, then that party should not feel any ill will against the Prophet, because the Prophet, what he's doing is out of all honesty. So that is an entirely different case in which a case was put up to the Prophet to decide.
Salman, did you have a follow-up, or are we good?
Just add this thing, so that I hope my word doesn't amount to blasphemy, but the status of Mubashir and Nazir also encompasses to be a judge also for the Prophet.
No, Mubashir means that you deliver glad tidings. I mean, glad tidings of success for people who follow the word of God. And a munzir is someone who warns people that if you don't follow the way of God, then you'll end up in hell. That's just a form of preaching. It's like delivering the message of God, and that's an entirely different thing. But this verse which says فَلَا وَرَبِّكَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ, it actually refers to the fact, you see the words is حَرَجًا مِمَّا قَزَيْتَ وَيُسَلِّمُ تَسْلِيمًا, that you should not find any ill will in your heart regarding the decision that you asked for him to give. When he makes that decision, the party against whom that decision is given, that party should not feel any ill will against the Prophet.
The Prophet is, apart from being a Bashir and Nazir, is also a judge between people, sir.
Yes, at times. I mean, it's not always. And so this verse actually says that if you bring a personal dispute before him, not that you are required to do it, maybe you settle it amongst your own self, but if you make him the judge, if you make him the judge and he gives a verdict, then you should not feel any ill will if that verdict is against your own expectation.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. Shabnam, please go ahead.
जी सर, आई हैव ऑलवेज वॉन्डर्ड कि सर ये खुतबा हुज्जतुल विदा के मौके पर मोर देन 1 लाख सहाबा प्रेजेंट थे, तो हिस्टोरिकली आई वॉन्डर कि हाउ डिड ही मैनेज के उनकी आवाज सब तक पहुंचे हो सर.
So it seems from historical narrative that what the Prophet would be saying would be repeated by people, so that people who stood behind them were able to hear as well. So it's not that the Prophet was speaking in a very loud way. So people were standing in rows supposedly, and after about every few rows people would repeat, and then the previous people would do the same.
Right, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Adil Quraishi, please go ahead.
Yes, sir. So there is this ayah in in Surah Baqarah which says "Ma nansakh min ayatin aw nunsiha." So where Allah is saying कि हम जो आयत भी मंसूख करते हैं या उसे भुला देते हैं, ये अल्लाह ताला किसको भुला देते हैं आयत?
So this, if you look at the context, it's not talking about the Quran. It's talking about the previous Sharia, which at times is changed in the format of the Quran. So the Jews would often say, this is an objection that they had raised, if you look at the context of this verse, that if all prophets of God have brought the same message, and if the Quran is telling them that, well, it's the same message that they have brought down, then why is it that the Quran is abrogating certain parts of the Torah? So in reply, God is telling them that if some of these verses are abrogated, or if some of them have been made to forget because of the fact that Jews had forgotten a lot of verses, or they had sort of overlooked them, and if the Quran is going to make it, revive them, then that revival will be precisely for the same reason, that they were forgotten. So basically, remember that the Jews were guilty, as we know from the Quran, of making people forget, and that of course means that they would not let a lot of directives of the Torah come to the fore before the common man. And so that is termed as insa. Insa means to make someone forget something. So if something is forgotten by someone, then the Almighty says that this was done at times on the part of the Jews to deceive their masses, and if this is something that they were guilty of, then the Almighty is now going to once again revive those directives that have been forgotten.
So this is not talking about the Holy Quran itself?
No, it's not talking about the Holy Quran, and I would urge you to please look up the Tafsir of Ustaz Amin Hassan Islahi. He has explained it very well, that how this verse is a relation between the Quran and the Torah, not between verses within the Quran.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amar, please go ahead.
जी थैंक यू सर. एक पर्सनल क्वेश्चन है आपसे. मैं आपकी वीडियोस देखता हूँ, बहुत ही दलील के साथ आप बात करते हैं, बहुत ही हाईली इंटेलेक्चुअल सारा स्टफ होता है, लेकिन सर उसके बावजूद जब मैं कमेंट्स पढ़ता हूँ, मेरा बहुत दिल दुखता भी है सर, जब आप ऐसे जो बहुत ही लो क्वालिटी के इम्पोलाइट होते हैं, रूड जो कमेंट्स होते हैं सर, उस पर फिर आपका दिल दुखता है, कैसा महसूस होता है सर?
I personally never feel sad because I just think that maybe I could be wrong, maybe the person is right, and when I assess whatever the criticism is, and I feel that no, I don't think that the criticism is correct. All that I do is that I think, well, maybe I was not able to convey my point of view correctly, or maybe the person did not understand it correctly. So why should we make it a big deal?
सुभान अल्लाह सर, शुक्रिया सर, बहुत ही खूबसूरती से आपने जवाब दिया सर.
Thank you very much. Salman Aziz, please go ahead.
So I have a question about Hajj in two parts. The Ghamidi Sahib says that it is the depiction probably, or the picturization, dramatization of jihad. So he is alone in this understanding, sir, or there are other scholars also who also appreciate the Hajj in the same way?
Well, to my knowledge, I think I feel that he's unique in this. I haven't read any other scholar saying so. And I did once ask him that what exactly made him come to this conclusion, and he actually said that there are a couple of things which are absolutely clear. First of all, the way you are moving from one part to another, and you are combining your prayers. So in a jihad or in such matters, you always combine prayers, and then the way your ultimate jihad ends up in pelting in stones to Satan or in the Jamarat, it's a clear expression of the fact that it is a culmination of an effort that was going on for a couple of days that ended up, for example, in the fact that you ended up pelting the pillars with stones in its actual format. So this is something he said reminds him of the fact that it's like symbolically expressing the fact that God, we are going to support your religion, we are going to support the fact that as far as Satan is concerned, who is the first and the most and the foremost enemy of Islam, to make ourselves realize that he is our greatest enemy, and symbolically we have stoned him so that once we go back in our normal lives, every time Satan tries to lead us astray, we imagine in our minds that we are going to pelt him away.
It appears to be so because I think other people, or maybe the people of Saudi, didn't think like that. I was just reading somewhere that they are making maybe permanent structures in Mina for people to stay there, and it doesn't correspond to the basic theme of a military movement that you have permanent structures.
That's correct. But this is one worship ritual which I feel needs to be really divulged to our younger generation and to people who go there, because for them it becomes more of an exercise from moving one place to another, and it becomes a very cumbersome exercise, because at times people don't share this, but it is really something which is very burdensome. But if you understand that you're doing it as a rehearsal for a very greater cause, then everything starts to make sense. And this is one area in which I think some work needs to be done, so that people are educated every year, that when they are going, they must understand that the sa'i that they offer, the tawaf that they do, the istilam that they do, the way they touch the Hajar Aswad, the black stone, similarly all other rites, they have very deep symbolism attached to them. And if you are able to gauge that symbolism, the way you will enjoy Hajj is going to penetrate in your heart. It's going to drench your soul with that superb attachment to God. It's like a real revival that you'll get, that you've gone and met God in His house. Not exactly met Him, but at least seen His house and the way things have been there. So I think one important area is to first understand ourselves the true philosophy of Hajj, and then try to explain it to people who are going there every year.
So your comment on making permanent structures in Mina for the Mina stay for Hajis, sir?
I cannot comment unless I know the whole scheme, but I think that it all depends on the situation. You see, at times when there are 2 million people there, it's not easy to have non-permanent structures. But I think the basic compromise, or maybe the basic revision that needs to be done in Hajj, is that repeated Hajj should not be allowed. Once a person has done Hajj, other people should be given the chance. And secondly, people who have gone there, I have been there many years ago, and I did observe that the place is not, I mean, it should, people, maybe 5 lakhs or 7 lakhs people is the most that can gather there. We have literally 2 million or 2.5 million people every year, because of which a lot of other arrangements have to be made, and one of them is what you are referring to have permanent structures so that such a large quantity of people can be efficiently housed. So I think if the number of pilgrims is reduced, and every pilgrim is told that once he is offered Hajj once in his lifetime, then it should not, unless there are other people there, he should not be given the chance. So that is what I think, that if Hajj is properly managed, if the number is reduced, then maybe this would not even be required.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. Javed Irfan, please go ahead.
सर मेरा सवाल ये है कि शैतान एक तो वसवसों के जरिए से इंसान को बहकाने का काम करता है, लेकिन क्या ये ऑर्गेनाइज्ड और एक सिंडिकेट बना करके भी टारगेटेड मुसलमानों के खिलाफ, जिस तरह कहा जाता है कि एक एविल और एक तौहीद परस्त लोग हैं, इस तरह भी कुछ काम होता है क्या जिसका नेतृत्व लीडरशिप शैतान कर रहा है ऐसा?
So remember, devils and Satan are not just among jinn, they are also amongst human beings. So the Qur'an has explicitly said that min al jinnati wan nas, that people who are devils, people who have satanic dispositions, they are found both among the jinn kind and among mankind. So about jinn kind, obviously we are not very sure, but yes, they might be doing this in an organized way. And that probably is the conjecture. But about humankind, it's no conjecture. We can clearly see that people make plans, they plot, they scheme, and so the progeny of Satan amongst human beings, that's what they are doing. So there's no reason not to believe that is not happening.
Okay, लेकिन मतलब क्या ये उसी तरह की लड़ाई है जैसे बताओ शिर्क कुफ्र शिर्क और तौहीद की लड़ाई इस अंदाज में है क्या वो, मतलब दुनिया में इस तरह बरपा है?
Maybe it all depends. You see, it is at the intellectual level, it is at the spiritual level. There are so many different levels.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem.
Jazakallah khair.
Adil Qureshi, please go ahead.
जी सर, एक प्रैक्टिकल मसला मेरी अंडरस्टैंडिंग जो है वो ये है कि हज तमत्तो में हाजी को कुर्बानी जो है वो देना लाजिम होती है, और अगर ऐसा हो जाए कि उसको एहसास नहीं हुआ या उसको ख्याल नहीं था कि लाजमी है और ये उसने समझा कि ये तो ऑप्शनल है या नफली है और वो नहीं उसने दी कुर्बानी, तो क्या वो जब उसको रियलाइज़ हुआ कि उसकी लाजमी थी वो उस वक्त दे सकता है या उसको हज रिपीट करना पड़ेगा?
This is not something that he has to do again. All that he needs to do is to atone for that. Atone means that he has to do the kafara, and that is that he should actually atone for that. So atonement must be offered, and the Quran has referred to various forms of atonement. So obviously he must sacrifice an animal. That was something that was meant to be done at that time. So that is essential. But something more has to be done as well, because it's not just because that was in any way needed. So because of not doing it, it could be out of the fact that you're ignorant, or maybe you forgot. So all these reasons could be there. So for that, I think something more should be done. Like if you look at the Quran tells us that when there is any blemish, something which is unfinished or not done at the right time, so the Quran says that it should be sadaqatin or nusuk or siyam, which means that either it should be some sadaqah that you give, or some qurbani that you give, or some infaq that you do. So all these things, one of the things could be adopted from them.
Right, and for that one needs to reach out to a faqih to understand the quantity.
Yes, that is, because you see, every person would be having different circumstances and different scenarios. So yes, they can consult someone.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amar, please go ahead.
थैंक यू मरियम सर। ये मुझे अपने वतन से बहुत प्यार है। वहाँ पर कोई खुशी का मौका होता है तो दिल खुश होता है, कोई गमी होती है तो दिल उदास होता है। लेकिन सर मैं दूसरी जो दुनिया है, दूसरे जो मुल्क हैं, उनको मैं अपने से अलग नहीं समझता, उनको भी अपना ही समझता हूँ। तो बाज़ औक़ात हमारे ये बहुत डिवाइड हो जाती है सर, छोटी छोटी बातों पे दूसरे मुल्क पे जुमले कसना या जो भी है। तो सर ये मैं अपने आप को बहुत अकेला समझता हूँ कि मुझे इंडिया भी उतना ही अजीज है जितना पाकिस्तान है। ठीक है, वो पॉलिटिकल इश्यूज हैं, वो तो मेरी समझ से बाहर हैं, लेकिन लोग तो हम एक ही हैं सर।
You're absolutely right that we belong to the human fraternity. We are one. We are citizens of the globe. Humankind is one family. So if any part of that family suffers, we had that very tragic happening a couple of days ago. So many innocent people lost their lives, and I mean, they were human beings. So to feel sad for them, to be sorrowful for them, is something which is absolutely natural. And if the emotions of compassion and kindness and mercy do not arise in our hearts, then I mean, there is something wrong. Otherwise, we have to learn that this is an area in which we are part of the human fraternity. There is no ethnic, religious, social, cultural divide which takes us away from being a human. And so therefore, humanity, whenever it suffers in any way, it should elicit or it should entice in us the emotions of compassion and sensitivity, I would say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saleem. I had a question regarding the friendship part that we covered today. So, from my experience, most of the people that I work with are atheists. And I've found myself that no matter how many people I surround myself with and like form friendships with, I'm constantly disappointed by any friendships that I form with non-Muslims, whether it's like any non-Muslim, whether atheist or otherwise. Even within Muslims, like there is a party that disappoints me greatly, whereas like there are very, very, very few people that I'm like, okay, you know, I can be like friends with this person. But I know like the passage that you mentioned, it doesn't segregate by anything. It's just talking about friendships. But I find myself that the morals differ so greatly between people that are like even practicing Muslims versus non-practicing, let alone like non-Muslims altogether, that I just find it almost impossible to ever be in like a very close friendship with them. So like, but the passage itself doesn't segregate between religion. So like, is it possible at all for
So,
like Muslims?
I mean, you see, the passage is not related to any such nuance or specification that you have mentioned. It relates to true friends. Any true friend is someone who is regardless. He or she should be a well-wisher, someone who is always looking after the other person. So it's talking about friendship per se, not who are the people that you need to make friends with. You have to pick and choose your friends, and there are all types of people everywhere. There are good people and there are bad people, regardless of religion. So that's another thing that you have to do, that you have to pick and choose. But this particular verse is talking about the fact that once you become a friend, then a friendly advice is the best thing that you can give, because if you are a friend, then the other person is going to listen to you. And if you have some words of criticism or maybe betterment for that person, then don't withhold yourself. So it's more talking about the philosophical level of friendship, not the people that you need to make friends with, because that's another story, another part, and that is something that we all must use our common sense and practice to employ.
Thank you for that clarification. Much needed.